This is part of an ongoing series showcasing my top 20 favorite video games. Number 9, Final Fantasy IV. This is another case that's sort of akin to Mario Galaxy in talking about certain parts of the series that just grab you the way others don't, even if there's some other parts that are objectively better. When people bring up discussions about their favorite Final Fantasies, 4 is not typically one that gets talked about a lot. Which is honestly kind of a shame, because a lot of the elements that I love about Final Fantasy are because of this game. And I'm not just talking about the monsters, MacGuffins, and overall aesthetics, but also the character arcs, the emotional weight, and the overall clear sense of growth. While the moments in 4 aren't quite as iconic as something like, say, Cloud coming to terms with who he really is, or Vivi's journey to self-acceptance, but they're still noteworthy because of how ahead of their time they were. And at the heart of it all is the main character himself. Cecil Harvey starts off as a corrupted knight. He knows what he's doing is wrong, but is too scared to disobey orders, and is only able to because of a literal divine intervention. When he's separated from his friend and fellow knight Cain Highwind, it sets him on a path of redemption, overcoming trials to become a paladin, uncovering the truth behind the kingdom he served, and making it his mission to set things right. And of course, we get to see him do it alongside a colorful cast of ragtag party members that would later go on to become a staple in Final Fantasy. In a lot of ways, it feels like a bridge between Western fantasy and what would later become the more distinct Final Fantasy aesthetic. You still have airships, crystals, and magical technology, but it hasn't fully leaned into the surreal or sci-fi elements yet like we'd go on to see in later games. And because of that, the story feels grounded. Cecil's arc works not just as a JRPG storyline, but also as a classic fantasy redemption tale. Strip away the user interface and the turn-based combat, and it could almost work just as well as a traditional fantasy novel. And I think that blend of Western fantasy tropes with the emerging Final Fantasy identity is why this game still resonates with me so strongly. Also, because I'm bad at writing transitions, I don't really know how to jump into this topic smoothly. But I also want to talk about the cast ensemble's designs, because they look great. Kain's design is almost synonymous with the archetype for Dragoons, so much so that it becomes the standard in Final Fantasy XIV. Cecil's design is iconic both as his Dark Knight and as his Paladin. Rydia is still probably my favorite summoner, and Golbez might be one of the coolest Final Fantasy villain designs. In a way, I guess you could say this one walks so later Final Fantasies could run. Because at its core, Final Fantasy IV is a story about confronting who you are, accepting the weight of your mistakes, and choosing to be better anyway. And for a genre that's so well known to be about saving the world, they show that sometimes the most powerful first step is learning how to save yourself. While later entries would go on to refine and even arguably surpass those initial ideas, being pretentious, I like to say that Final Fantasy IV was the one that proved Final Fantasy could be more than just an adventure. It could be a story that stays with you.